Good evening. Good evening. What's up, my brother?
What's going on, Q?
Hey, man. I know it's a big day, and Derby Day is a big day. I always find it funny. Not funny, but I don't think people realize how much of a tradition the Derby is. Older than the Super Bowl. Older than the Super Bowl. Big tradition if you're into horse racing, as most people don't realize that you're a big racing fan. The track um, over the years with OTBs and all this stuff and legal gambling in certain states. Um, I don't know if the thrill has lost. I know I went to the track a couple times. I know somebody that's having their 50th birthday next year, God willing, at the track, and I know it's a real exciting time. Yeah, Joe Rizzo, he got his receipts out and everything, man. He's ready. He's ready. But I know one thing, Dwayne. So you were telling me before we started that the mattress man down in Houston, as usual, he bets on these big events, and a lot of people notice that the man wins a lot of money as well as he loses a lot of money. It's just the thrill of doing it. He did something today, and you said it affected something
Well,
immediately.
you had two co-favorites. Before he placed the bet, they were 9-2. Then he placed a $1.2 million bet on one of them, so the odds fluctuated. I mean, they're still the first and second choice, but it's just that's how it works in this game, man. You get enough money on one horse, it'll affect the odds late. I had a horse yesterday. I loved him. Um, he was 50-1 yesterday. And then his jockey went on FanDuel TV with Kay Adams, talented Kay Adams, and he put out his credentials, and he was like, "With my credentials and his trainer's credentials, I don't know how this horse is 50-1." Well, it's 13-1 now. They bet it down, which doesn't make me too happy because I got some money on it. But 13-1 is still pretty good. Unfortunately, in this racing game, it's been a lot of bad publicity. 7 horses have passed at Churchill's Down. One that got hurt earlier today, they had to put it down, unfortunately. And the favorite in this race going into it, Forte. Yeah, I want to be careful what I was about to say about Kay Adams Rizzo, but yeah, not bad yesterday. I'll just say that. Great coverage, and it wasn't bad. So the favorite was Forte coming into this, and unfortunately had a little injury. They checked him this morning, and I think cooler minds prevailed, and they thought about the actual safety of the horse, not the bigness of the day. And hopefully we'll see this horse either at the Preakness or the Belmont going forward. And man, I love it, man. I went to Monmouth Park today. I was there for a couple of hours. I was in my glory. It doesn't officially open until next weekend, Mother's Day weekend. But a young lady had a big party in the picnic area. They had their sundresses on and their hats, and the fellas had their sports coats and suits on and hats, and it just makes you feel excited, man. God rest his soul. My father got me into this game probably way younger than I should have been. You know, I've been going to the track with my dad since I can remember. Monmouth Park holds a truly special place in my heart because of the time spent there with my mom and dad. It's always good to go back, but I also always have a brief sad moment, you know, because it was something that I shared with the two of them. So, but it's great, man. It's a big day, and You know, the horses are on the track right now doing a walk with their owners. Pretty soon you'll have riders up call and you'll hear that my old Kentucky home song. And number 8 horse out there right now, a little feisty, rearing back and kicking. But hopefully they'll settle him down a little bit. But it's exciting times. Not for my Knicks today, who got their doors blown off. Not for my Devils, the first 2 games, they got their doors blown off. And New York City baseball right now is mid. Whether you're a Yankee fan or a Met fan, it just don't feel good right now, New York
You,
City baseball.
one of the things, and it's funny when you talk about horse racing, and I'm gonna tell you something, and you probably didn't even know. I remember I was working at this one job, right, and I was a big racing fan, right. So not me, the guy I worked with. He was big. I mean, papers every day. He bet and calling the bets in while we was at the job. So he knew I was a Yankee fan, and he was like, "Yo, you got to get into this." I said, "Oh, I've been to the track a few times." So he was big into his way of trying to get me into it is when the late great George Steinbrenner was alive. George Steinbrenner had that horse, so he used to
Mhm.
always talk about the horse, and then he knew like me and you had grew up in the New York tri-state area. Most people don't realize how big of an influence, if you're a sports fan, Mike and Chris are. So what he had did, he was even so slick about it. He said, "Well, Mike owned horses. You should listen to Mike." So then Francesa, would always talk about him and Gandolfini had a horse together, well, before James died and stuff like that. And I always think one thing I like about the Kentucky Derby is the dresses, the hats. It's really nice to see everybody dressed up. It's more of an event. I think that for a sports fan like ourselves, that's something that we should all want to go to at least once in our lifetime, to get in there and go down there and see how it really is, because it looks really good. And speaking of the New York landscape, the New York sports landscape, I only like one team in the New York metropolitan area, and like you always tell me, and I've taken that approach. I don't even want to talk baseball until after the 4th of July. It's really to the point now. Like, does it really matter? It does.
Hey,
Does
dog, you just a lot of these sports is becoming just get in the tournament, man.
we even seen it in hockey this year?
Yeah, regular seasons are like you said, Boston Bruins just crushing everything in the regular season, and then they out of there.
Yeah.
You know,
So I know it's been a lot. NFL draft. We did our draft shows, which in me and your eyes was pretty long, man. NFL got to do something about it. We'll be here, God willing.
I
However,
mean,
they need to slow down on their coverage. Like, it's taking too long.
I don't know that they will. I mean, 15 minutes in the first round that allows for the moving and shaking that goes on. And really, if you believe some of these teams, they go right up to the last minute with these. Now, when you have a situations with the Panthers where they come out and they tell everybody they knew who their pick was darn near a week prior to the draft, then what we take a 15 minutes for them. Just start the draft off, say they made their pick, and move on.
Because they be on the
Uh,
clock all off season.
yeah, I love the draft. I love the excitement leading up to the draft. I know people got to do draft grades. I'm not a big draft grade guy because you look at Seattle last year, they got 2 starting tackles out of the draft, but their best player was a 6th-round pick and was their corner, you know? So what did you grade him last year in the draft? What was the reports on him? And, he's in the 6th round, so there was some knocks on him.
Hmm.
And then he just got out on that field and he did his thing, man. So,
And it's funny.
grades is fun. It's good content, but I rather think about of the draft picks that they made, trying to guess who's going to have the greatest impact for each team. I mean, you see the teams that did well. The Philadelphia Eagles did very well in the draft, whether anybody wants to give them credit for that or not. Um, the Houston Texans, they gave up a lot. to come back and get Will Anderson at 3. But to me, I said it in the beginning, I'll continue to say it. I think Will Anderson was the best player in this draft. I know a lot of people think Jalen Carter with his off the field stuff. And, I think he'll be okay with the Eagles, but we gotta be careful too, man. Like, I know it's cachet right now to call them the Philadelphia Bulldog Eagles and change the G in their logo to a Georgia G. Nakobe Dean did not play last year. Let's be honest about that. And Jordan Davis, if he was such all-world, why in the playoffs did they have to go get Ndamukong Suh and leave L. Joseph to show up their defensive tackle position? Don't the Eagles have the highest chance of busting it up? Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I think Dwayne. I to be honest with you, I'm glad you used Seattle because I was gushing over John Snyder. I just think that me and you've been doing our draft shows for 4 years and 3, 4 years, and watching the draft over the years and looking at all the draft grades. I always never look at a draft as in a vacuum. It's always like a 2 or 3 year period because one of the things as a sports fan is to look and sit back and watch a true GM build a roster. And this is why I was so impressed with what John Snyder did last year post draft and how he followed it up to rebuild that team back all the way up to having what most people considered the Legion of Boom, then going out and paying high money for a free agent quarterback in Matt Flynn, and you're
Mm-hmm.
not realizing you drafted your franchise quarterback in the same draft. And then you saw what you had and you cut your losses and you got rid of Flynn and you started this young kid out of North Carolina and state and then you see it parlayed to a Super Bowl. So I'm big on the roster building.
Mm-hmm.
Me and you always discuss it. And I always find it interesting because people give people draft grades and they base it off of the player without a system instead of saying this player can be great within the system that he got drafted by because that's key because me and you always talk about it and it's our like little running joke between me you and Walker. What's a one technique and a three technique? What's the difference? For those of us that have those 4-3 teams that root for the 4-3 teams, we know how big of a difference a one technique and a three technique is. I mean, and what the quote unquote role for that one technique is compared to the three technique. But we're going to do something unique, like you said, and just go through each team and talk about which pick. It could be 1 through 7, or it could be because I may surprise you with something I seen. I noticed. It could be one of the guys that they signed off the streets, and because a lot of times guys sign off the streets, we know there's been countless guys, and I'll just say because I just thinking about it, James Harrison will go into the Hall of Fame, and he was a free agent. He didn't get drafted. And those type of guys make impacts to some of these franchises with being coached up, learning the system. As the great Vouch Lombardi says, getting some of that NFL peanut butter up under their belt. And next thing you know, they take off. So we're gonna do it in alphabetical order, Wayne.
Yeah, man. We can start with the Cardinals. We're going in alphabetical order by city, of course, when you're starting with the Cardinals. Um, I think with the Cardinals, I think what they did with the offensive lineman, Paris Johnson. I mean, when I go through this, I'm not going to pick all of the top picks, but I think for the Cardinals, you have to start there. They identify him as the best offensive lineman. And, sometimes we got to admit, little Mighty Mouse, he be running for his life back there. So hopefully they can get Paris Johnson. He can get some stability. As a Michigan fan, anytime I got to say something good about somebody that played for Ohio, I don't feel good about it. But they do produce big time NFL players right now. You look at it: Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. I'll call them that. I'll be respectful. Ohio. Um, they got players that's up there, and here lately, Michigan is starting to get more and more players into the draft. And when you think about drafting somebody from Michigan, yeah, I'm a Michigan fan, but you got to think about Jim Harbaugh being there, and it's almost like a pro system in college. You got Mike McDonald, who was defense coordinator. Now he's defense coordinator of the Ravens. He came from the Ravens. Jesse Minter came from the Ravens. So, it's all about that. And one thing I'll say about the NFL draft that I've seen in the last couple of years, these organizations don't care what the Mel Kipers, the Todd McShays, the Daniel Jeremiahs, the Charles Davis, the Bucky Brooks, the list goes on and on. They're drafting to needs for their team. Regardless of where people got them rated, these teams are now staying true to their boards, and they're drafting what they feel that their team needs, and that makes a lot of sense to me, man. So don't get caught in the bright lights. Like if you watch NFL Network and you watch ABC, you watch ESPN, they'll make you think Will Levis was the only person left in the green room from the first round to the second, and we know that's not true. Joey Porter Jr. was in there. Brian Branch was in there. List goes on and on. And kudos to the kid Brian Branch, who came back the next day and sat in the green room by himself, even though he got picked in the second round, because it was always his dream to walk across that stage and shake the hand of Robert Goodell and put his hat on and pose for pictures, and he did that. He didn't let going into the second round stop his dream, and I really like that for that kid, man.
Yeah,
But,
I second your method with Arizona. I was looking for the tweet just now that I had seen last week on I think Monday or Tuesday, and I sent it to somebody, and I could probably look for it if I find it, but because of the time, I'm not going to look for it. Arizona, they're rebuilding their franchise, and these picks, if you look at their picks, I'm agreeing with you. You have to protect your investment. Your number one investment on any football team, if they've out of their fourth or fifth year, is going to be the quarterback. Getting Paris Johnson was paramount. Arizona, they ain't not going to win it this year. They're not going to win it next year. But in 2 years, Arizona's going to be loaded. Arizona, I think, offhand, they got two ones, two twos, three threes, three fours, three fives. They're loaded coming into next year's draft. So this year's draft, if you watch, and when we did the draft show, they got their player and then they started moving around, parlaying picks, moving from here and here. After they had gave the tampering compensation to the Eagles,
right,
it didn't phase them. And I think for a young GM, they got a new GM. I can't remember his name. Hot shot, and you got to be able to will and deal, and you got to be able to. We always reference the big Herschel Walker trade. You can't do it like that no more because teams will be scared to do something like that. But you got to be willing to will and deal. And most people thought that they were going to get rid of Hopkins.
right,
Hopkins hasn't been traded, and he actually said, "I never asked to be traded." So I think it's interesting, and you never know. They might, you know how football is. It's chemistry. They may mess around and be a playoff team. Then next year, people be like, how a playoff team get all these picks? That's because the GM has to
right.
have foresight to help build that roster. So I think getting Paris Johnson was the smart pick, and protecting this kid's blind side.
Yeah. If you see me, folks, if you see me glancing up, man, I'm all in on this show, but it is Derby time and it's the greatest 2 minutes in sports. So glancing, they're about to get the jockeys on the horses. So if you see me looking up, that's what I'm looking at. Yeah, I think the Falcons is next, and I just think with the Falcons, it all starts with B. John Robinson. I think Arthur Smith wants to use him like he used Derrick Henry. He's not as big as Derrick Henry, of course, but he is a workhorse back. I think Atlanta has Drake London, They have Kyle Pitts at tight end, Drake London at wide receiver. Now they got a Bijan Robinson, and we're gonna see what Desmond Ryder is this year. And if he's not good, then they will get them a quarterback next year. And the apple of everybody's eye is USC's Caleb Williams. So if things don't go well, and they'll make that change.
I
But
think
Bijan Robinson is,
I
you know,
think Atlanta. I think
back.
Atlanta hit it out the park. I mean, you can't go wrong with drafting him. I think when you look at Atlanta drafted Bijan Robinson, not certain other teams drafted him. Atlanta, you look at their players. Kyle Pitts are probably pop now because they got another tight end that's going to take up all the blocking.
Mhm.
They got the receiver, and the way that Arthur Smith runs his offense, it's going to be heavy run, play action. Get the tight ends down the seams, slant routes, keep the sticks moving. I hope for the sake of being able to watch this kid for the next 6, 7 years, he doesn't get beat up at the position. But I think the way that Arizona runs their offense, if they could, as we would say, if they could keep Cordell Patterson around, the multi-purpose guy who's always doing something, that'll take a big change of pace off of B. John Robinson. So I really like what Atlanta's doing, man. It's all about that roster building, and drafting him on any board would be a catch because he is, in all estimation, that guy.
Yeah. I think with the Baltimore Ravens, could Atlanta have traded down and taken later and acquired much? I would think, but you got to look that the Lions took Jameer Gibbs at 12. So how far could the Cardinals really have traded down? Because if the Lions was taking Gibbs at 12, if Bijan was there, they would have taken him. So I don't know how far they could have traded down and still ensured that they got Bijan. But
Joe, Joe, I just want to add on to that. I think that I think that the problem with this NFL and some of these guys devaluing running backs, I think they're lying. I think they're telling people that they're valuing running backs, but they're not. I think that a good NFL team that knows what they're doing, knows their personnel, what they need to do is use these running backs properly. I think that when you look at these running backs and you say, I have a 19 game schedule, you don't want to have a one running back having 300 carries, another 60 receptions. You don't want to have a back do that. What you want to do with a back now, I would think would give them probably anywhere between 200 to 200 to 230 carries and spell him, and maybe you could have that back for 8, 9 years. Maybe you could do the multi back, and when you got a guy like Bijan Robinson, like Dwayne said, who's so special, with what Detroit and maybe the Eagles might have thought, I don't think that Atlanta was willing to risk, knowing you couldn't get the
well,
spectacular. And
I just think for the Eagles it was a smoke screen. I don't think they were ever going to take Bijan Robinson because you could look at it last year. They made it to the Super Bowl and they used Sanders, they used
they made it to the
Gateway,
Super Bowl.
they used Boston Scott. So
They
they
made it to the Super Bowl with three running backs that was less than $6 million on their
right,
salary cap.
right. So that's what they think about the value of the running back position. I think a strong running game is still very important. Um, I don't know. The value is there. You look at the Giants, right? The New York Giants. They made sure that they re-signed Dexter Lawrence. They made sure that they re-signed Daniel Jones, and they franchised Saquon at $10 million. And hey, Saquon is either you play on it or you don't. And there's a good likelihood that they don't re-sign Saquon at the end of the year. They just let him go because
Isn't that a catch-22 though, Dwayne? When you think about it, as we talking about the running back position, you you may not re-sign Saquon. You franchise him because you say that they may be saying the position is devalued. We don't agree with that. But then you go sign Dexter Lawrence, who legitimately is a one technique, what we would say a one technique, and Wink Martindale tinkers with his offense. He has one job to do. Now, sacks, pressures, is gravy. But his one job to do is to stop that run. So
Stop the run.
you paying a guy premium money to stop the run, but then you don't want to pay your running back.
Well,
it's a weird
listen,
philosophy.
it is a copycat league, right? Washington paid Deron Payne, right? They paid him. You got the Giants paying Dexter Lawrence. You got the Cowboys drafting Mozzie Smith, #1 overall. And what are they trying to stop? The
The
Eagles in
run.
that running attack with Jalen Hurts, those quarterback sneaks. That's basically what these teams in the NFC East is doing. They're like, we got to be strong up the middle to compete against the Eagles in our very own division, So I think that has a lot to do with it. And, we'll get into the Cowboys soon. I don't want to go too deep in the weeds, but I mean, they just keep getting punched in the mouth, punched in the mouth, punched in the mouth. They can't stop the run. So that's why on some draft boards, people thought it was a reach. Look, they got Patty Mahomes up here with the Kentucky Derby. Little Patty getting it done. He gonna tell the riders to get up. I love Patrick Mahomes.
On a side note, he need to be worried about his brother. Shots fired.
Oh man, well, hey man, I ain't gonna comment on that. I will leave him and Ebony Williams alone. Thank you. But yeah, so when we go to the Ravens, right? We said we were going to talk about impact this year. So if you're talking about impact this year, you got to go Zay Flowers because that's just giving Lamar another weapon with Odell Beckham Jr. and the tight end that they have there. I believe they still have Mark Andrews there. I could be wrong, but I believe he's still there. But I think long term, man, I think there's a kid that they drafted in this draft. His name is Andrew Voorhees. He hurt himself at the combine. And even with a hurt knee, he went up and still wanted to do the bench press. He basically did the bench press with one leg and was very impressive. And I think long term, I like this kid's makeup. And I think, it's going to be a redshirt season because of the injury. But I think long term, you may look at this draft and be like, look, man, look at the production they're getting out of Andrew Voorhees and where they drafted him at.
I was shocked that he slipped all the way to 7, to be honest with you, because before he had the injury, Voorhees was projected to be that 10-year starter, multiple Pro Bowl guard. He was the guy. He was the guy over Osiris Torrance and Avila. He was the one. So I thought that was interesting. Baltimore, Dwayne, I'm never going to criticize their draft. Zay Flowers is going to be the first impact. I'm still going to I'm just amazed that Marcus Peters is still a free agent. It just amazes me. But you never, like I said, the only time that we've probably ever criticized this franchise was the way that the Lamar thing was handled, and we discussed that prior. Other than that, you don't criticize Baltimore. All you do is look up during the season and be like, how the hell they get that guy? So
Yeah.
they didn't. I know they didn't give McQueen his 5th-year option. You don't second guess their moves.
No, no, no. So, good to have Lamar back and him be happy about his contract. And, Beckham got the money that he wanted. To me, it was always about the money for Odell. It wasn't about where he was going. He already has his Super Bowl ring. I don't think he was ever coming back to New York. And I don't think he was ever going to Dallas. I think he was just doing that to set the market high for himself. And God bless him. I mean, it's what you got to do in this NFL. Get your money because we know about the guarantees. And if you get hurt, it's over for you.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go to Buffalo, man, and they thought they was jumping in front of Dallas to get Dalton Kincaid. We don't know if that's who Dallas was looking at or not. Could be, whatever. But I'm not going with Dalton Kincaid as their biggest impact for this year. Now, they do have Connor McGovern, who they picked up from the Dallas Cowboys to play guard. But I don't think he's going to beat out Osiris Torrance, who they drafted. I think Osiris Torrance, there was a lot of knocks on him late in this process, which I didn't understand. I think he's a plug-and-play left guard. I think you put him there, you leave him there, and you'll be happy with him for years. So I think the most impactful Buffalo Bill is going to be Osiris Torrance.
Yeah, I think, believe it or not, I think Conor McGovern, I don't know what his hit is going to be. I don't think he makes out of camp. I think that's a. I think Buffalo they changed their draft strategy and their off-season strategy to me doesn't mix. Same thing with another team in their division that we'll talk about. I just think that they did moves that didn't strengthen their roster from their weakness. They have a weakness at defense. Um, they've drafted players over the years, and right now we're going to be seeing the older Vaughn Miller running around on the field, and I just think that they just getting a tight end. Their offense has never been a problem. They can score with anybody with the kids, but getting I do think Osiris Torrance is that he's the 10-year starter. He's the guy. He's the guy you plug him at guard. He reminds me of a guy that me and you've been liking for years, Roger Stafford the third. Just
Listen, man, I'm 5'5", overweight, slow, with a bad ankle and a bad knee, right? Dalton Kincaid couldn't block me, but he gonna catch everything. He's basically a wide receiver in the tight end's body, man.
mm,
And I don't mean I'm joking. Of course he could block me. I'm joking. But the one thing he struggles with is with his blocking. And I think he's going to be another weapon for Josh Allen. But Josh Allen has a lot of weapons. I think sometimes Josh Allen takes a lot of hits because of the style of play and all that good stuff. But I think Osiris Torrance may be one of his new best friends when you know Josh Allen is back there in the pocket looking to throw the ball. Next up, you got the Carolina Panthers. It's easy to say Bryce Young. I'm not going with Bryce Young. We know he's going to be the day one starter. He's going to do some good things. He's going to do some bad things. I think I love the pick of Jonathan Mingo. You got DJ Moore, who went to Chicago with the big trade. And I think Jonathan Mingo's a sleeper.
Kincaid just blocked you for that comment.
He probably did. Um, I like Jonathan Mingo. I liked him at Ole Miss. I think he's a very underrated wide receiver coming into this draft. And I look forward to seeing how he develops with Bryce Young.
Mingo as well. I mean, Carolina, Frank Reich. If you look at Frank Reich with quarterbacks, it's a no-brainer that they moved up draft capital to move up to get up there. They drafted this kid. Carolina's one of the teams with Tepper. Um, they won't be bad for long because of the ownership group that's with Tepper down there. He's going to throw his resources towards winning, and he's going to give Frank Reich everything possible to try to win. So I do think that the receiver Mingo is going to be the impact because you got to get the wow plays. The wow is what get everybody excited around the franchise. They're
Yes.
solid on defense, so you know get the chemistry with the young quarterback and the receiver early.
Mhm. Chicago Bears, I'm going with their first pick. I'm going with Darnell Wright. You know, they had a rookie at left tackle last year. He came on and was becoming more comfortable and more solid at the end of the year. Now you got a prototypical right tackle. Okay, you got your Doug Free. If anybody ever remember who Doug Free was, you just put him there, you leave him there. He's gonna be solid. I thought Darnell Wright was the best tackle in the draft. I said that on our shows coming into the draft. I said it on draft night. I'm saying it for a third time. I think Chicago knocked it out the park with this pick, and Justin Fields could feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that Mr. Wright is over there at the right tackle position.
It's funny because the thing about Justin Fields is that he's a great athlete and he runs well. And I kept saying to myself, I said, Dwayne, I know he went to the school that you don't like. I said, but help me because I know what I saw with my eyes. This kid got arm. Like, forget him running. You said they have no line. So getting the best player at his position at tackle, just block for this man. Just slow it down a little bit. I don't think that we've seen how talented Justin Fields is. I really don't think the NFL understands that on his feet and with his arm, he could change the quarterback position. Not that he's better than Patrick Mahomes, not that he's better than Josh and Burrow, but what he does is unique because he's accurate and he can throw. I
Yeah,
mean, and he can run. So I think that he's big. So you just ain't gonna be hitting all on him, and he gonna be hurt. So I'm glad that they got him alignment, and it's gonna be a big impact on the development and the maturation of his game.
yeah.
Dwayne,
Uh,
this is another team that just I swear I know they drafted a defense, but they can't stop drafting and getting all these weapons for this guy. How do you go get the kid from Purdue?
it's funny. You would think we. It's funny. You would think we went through this list together and we didn't. Excuse me. I just gotta respond to that tweet. It's funny that we didn't do this list together. We thought about doing this, and I also have Charlie Jones because he's going to affect you in the return game, punt returner, kickoff returner, and man, he's a fourth receiver to go with Chase, to go with Higgins, to go with Boyd, and if Boyd leaves at the end of this year, you just slide him right into the number 3. Charlie Jones is a player, man. He's been to the Big Ten championship game 2 years in a row, once with Iowa, once with Purdue. And he's tough. He catches. He runs jet sweeps. He's a return demon. He's fast. And, he's going to be Joe Burrow. And I hate to say this because I don't want to stereotype, but he's going to be Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. That's who he's going to be for Joe Burrow.
The organization, say what you want about that organization and how cheap the Brown family has been. Joe Burrow has all the weapons. He has everything at his disposal as a young quarterback, and that's all you could ask for. Johnson is going to be special.
Okay.
He's going to be
Jones is
special.
going to be special. Charlie Jones is a good player.
Yeah, Jones. I said Johnson.
He's a
Jones
good
going to be
player.
special.
So if you go to the Cleveland Browns, with the Browns, I'm going with the big fella that you're going to put right next to Myles Garrett. I'm going with Sikiaka, and he's big, man. He's a stuffer. He's a you think about defensive tackles, Haloti, you think about a Hankins, you think about just that disruptive defensive tackle, and that's who this kid is, and you slot him next to Myles Garrett, and you just let him go.
Well, one of the things, Dwayne, and I always, you brought up the big kid, and that makes me laugh every time me and you start talking about defensive tackles because I think it ends as and I know that you love corner. I know that's your favorite position on defense, but for me, Dwayne, it's always going to be that big nasty because everything collapses, everything starts with them, goes back to having. You could have a no-name linebacker or a linebacker who's not that good. If you got a big guy, a big nasty in the middle, and let that linebacker be able to make tackles and be able to flow, it changes how offenses can attack you. So I think this move is more of stopping the run and letting Garrett be able to really, really pop. I think that a lot of times with Myles Garrett, most people don't realize he's really good. And I know that some of his actions will make you think like he ain't that good. No, he's really, really good. He's a premier pass rusher in the league. So I think this move is to help their investment. So I think I can't never complain with a big nasty being drafted that early.
You can't. So next up will be the team that we root for. Full disclosure, everybody knows I'm a Michigan fan, so I was very happy with the Mozzie Smith pick. I was very happy with the Luke Schoonamaker pick because I know what he can do. Going into our draft coverage, everybody knows how big I am on the Marion Overshawn. And with me talking about those 3 players, you would think I would pick one of those 3 for my impact player, and I'm not. The impact player that I'm picking for the Dallas Cowboys is Junior Fiocco. Remember the name? He's going to be a 3-tech that's going to get after the quarterback, man. And you put him next to Micah Parsons, who just said he's going to be a full time defensive end. So you're going to have Junior next to him on the same side getting after it. Junior has a motor that does not quit. He played at San Jose State, but if you look at him play against other big time schools, he flashes. You always saw 42. So now when he's on the field, you're going to always see 93. I think they got a steal with this kid.
You want to
Really,
answer?
really high
You
on
want
him.
to answer Joe's question before I go?
Well, I love Jake Ferguson. I love Peyton Hendershot. I'm a Sean McKeon fan, but they need an inline wide tight end and the Mike McCarthy system. And the Cowboys picked a system tight end. If you looked at the draft coverage, they talked about he's going to be lined up at fullback sometimes. Sometimes he's going to be lined up at H-back. You're going to see a lot of double tight with the Cowboys, 2 tight ends, 3 wide receivers. You're going to see a lot of that with them, and you're going to see a lot of Ferguson and Schoonmaker on the field at the same time. They're going to be 1 and 1A as far as starters. I'm not going to do some of that cute stuff I saw online where, the Cowboys starter is Jake Schoonmaker. No, I'm not doing all that. They're both 2 individuals, and I think they both will be on the field at the same time a lot.
Well, Dwayne, it's interesting. Me and you picking probably some of the people that people least expect to really pop. I'm gonna pick a guy who didn't even get drafted because I think that them getting the Lampe kid out of North Dakota, the best
North
fullback
Dakota
in
State.
North Dakota State, the best fullback in the draft, and being able to sign him. Now, a person would be like, "What the hell are you talking about? He didn't get drafted. Why he didn't get drafted? He didn't get drafted because of his position. People think the fullback position, they turn these tight ends into fullbacks and vice versa. I think the one thing that the Cowboys will want to do with their roster is play big, play physical in some aspects, being able, and we've watched it the last few years, when they get inside the red zone or green zone, as the great Tom Coughlin used to call it, their play selection gets crazy. And I think that definitely when they get inside that 5, they want to be able to throw 3 tight ends with a fullback and a lead back. So or having your fullback be your lead back, which you see a lot, where he may be in the backfield with Dak a lot in pass pro. Or, you know what? Let's mix it up. Let's run a draw with him because he's not elusive, but he's a sneaky fast. So I'm gonna say him because he might not be the one to pop, might not be the one that's gonna have the biggest quote unquote impact, but inside the numbers, he might be the guy to have end up with 3 touchdowns, 200 yards rushing, another 180, 190 catching. You'd be like, damn, he was sneaky good. So
Okay,
I'm gonna pick him.
they're about to be off. I don't know if there's any other sports thing you want to talk about while
Well,
I watch this
what I
derby.
did want to talk about is LeBron James Jr.
They,
has has
I'm a mute
committed to
my. I'm a mute.
has committed to USC. USC should be a very, very, very good team in basketball this year. Um, I was surprised that Bronny decided USC, but it's good that he decided to go to college. I know that the family had left it up to him, and I hope that this young man be is able to understand and be able to experience the college experience and not just be considered LeBron James Jr. or LeBron or Bronny's kid. Or have fun, enjoy yourself, be able to go through the college experience. I mean, we know the cameras is going to be on them everywhere because LeBron may be at a game or this, that, and the third. So it's good that he's going to be able to enjoy that campus life and really enjoy himself. So he announced it today, and I think that's really, really, really good for college sports, college basketball in particular, because he could have easily did a prep year or won overseas or did anything, but he decided to go to college to go through the experience. So those that love college sports, love the as they say, the pureness of college basketball and college football. He's going to be going to USC, which is the campus is going to be jumping. Number one football, number one football quarterback, and you got all the USC alums that's in the media, so they're going to be talking about it. And he's a Trojan, and this, that, and the third. It would have really been jumping if he'd have went to Duke, and people would have really went crazy. But Coach Cal ain't there. I mean, Coach K's not there no more. So the luster of being a Duke grad is not as what it used to be. So Dwayne's watching that Derby, man. When they start saying, as they used to say, who's the guy? Was it Jim McKay, Dwayne? When he used to say, down the stretch they come. You're getting live coverage of Dwayne's facial expressions during the Derby. Thoughts, Dwayne?
It's a beautiful race, man. But Mays did it. The 8 horse did it.
Is that who he had his money on?
That's that who? Did I have my money on?
No.
Oh no.
Mattress guy.
No. No. Yeah, no. No. I did
So
not. I
next
did.
next we got the next team who everybody in the media thought this guy during the draft. I think that everybody in the media thought he was crazy. But then when you sat back and let the draft settle, you saw that Detroit drafted according to their roster. No, Denver. You got the Denver,
Denver.
right?
Denver.
Excuse me. I'm all up on Detroit, y'all. Me
Right.
and Dwayne is big Dan Campbell fans, and I was ready to go.
Yeah.
But even with Sean did some interesting stuff. I thought the Marvin Mims pick was interesting, Wayne, because you still got Judy on the roster.
Um. Again, I don't. I wish all these young kids well. Right. I do. I'm not a Mims fan. I'm just not a fan of his. Um, he had a nice career at Oklahoma and all that, but again, I'm not going to knock kids. This is who they decide to go with. But I think the most impactful player from that draft is going to be the linebacker from Arkansas, Drew Sanders. I think he's a damn good linebacker. I think he's very versatile, and I think they'll be okay with him.
Excuse me, Wayne. Yeah, I think Mims, which is interesting. I'm not a big fan of him anyway. I just think that by Sean saying coming out and saying he's not drafting Judy, but then you go pick this kid up. Like, what are you doing, Sean? And it's like you got the bag. Sean got the bag. Sean, typically for most people that don't know, Sean is not his personnel decisions is not always the greatest. So I think it's going to be interesting with Sean getting Mims. I think they need to had. I think they should have got more linemen. Excuse me, Dwayne. They should have got more linemen to protect Russ. But it's going to be interesting. Drew Sanders, I think, is going to be good linebacker. I would say Drew Sanders was their best pick.
Yeah.
Now,
Then you have the Lions. I know you were
oh yeah, I
bigging it up, so I'll let you go ahead with that.
when we was doing our draft show, and I said to you, oh, we got Jack Campbell with the other pick, and then we saw the pundits come out and say no, 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 and you said to me, you looked at me and you said he's a great player for Dan Campbell's offense. I mean defense. He'll clog the middle. He's a true middle linebacker, and I'm gonna say Campbell. I think that when you look at what they're trying to do, they with being able to get Hutchinson off and being able to have a guy in the middle, revamping their defense. Detroit's defense should be markedly improved. I know they put a lot of assets there. Getting Gibbs is going to be fun to watch. He's electric at the running back position. Most people are so happy with the Eagles making a trade for Swift, but I don't think people realize that Swift never really was healthy enough. That was one of his biggest problems. So I really like Campbell. And then getting Laporta was big. But Campbell is going to be the one that's going to be, the leader of that defense and be able to, allow Hutchinson to really, really get off. Because I know you're excited that Hutchinson is there.
Yeah, I'm a big Aiden Hutchinson fan, and but for me with the Lions, I think a motivated player sometimes is the best thing that can happen to an organization. And I think sitting in that green room the whole first day, I think coming back the second day showed me all I needed to know about this kid. And I think Brian Branch is going to have a big rookie season, and Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell are just the two men to play up on that. Nobody thought you were good enough. This, that, the third, and I think they're gonna pull so much out of this kid.
It's one thing me and you always talk about. We have these little pet teams that we kind of root for outside of our teams just to see them progress as an organization. I don't want I kind of want Detroit to get good quick and be able to perform, but you don't want to have to match up against Detroit if you're rooting for another team in that conference. So it's going to be interesting. The next team, the Green Bay Packers, man, they just got players. I'm sitting here looking at how many players they drafted. The draft never ended for them. They got a lot of guys, and if you go back and look at who they got, I mean, they got your favorite player, Luke.
Hmm?
The Packers, they got your boy Van Ness. I'm
Oh
messing with
yeah,
you.
no, I'm
I'm
not.
messing with you.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of him. They did get two tight ends to try to help. My favorite player, I think, who's going to be a big impact player for them, and it's a little bias on my part because I watched his whole college career. He started at Western Michigan with, Union's own Jamari Bogan. He was up there with them, and I think Jaden Reed is a very good wide receiver. I think when he was rated, they slighted him, and now you don't have Lazard there. You don't have Randall Cobb there. You got Watkins, who's a big young wide receiver, and I think Jaden Reed could be an excellent complement to him, and I think he could be good in Mike LaFleur's offense. So I'm going with Jaden Reed to be the most impactful rookie of the Green Bay Packers.
I'm really impressed with their roster. I mean, they turned the page, and this is how you turn the page on a great player that no longer wants to be there. I think that the Packers will be one of them teams that will play tough. Now they can rally behind this Jordan Love. So it's going to be interesting. They got two nice tight ends that can give you problems all over the place.
Hmm.
So like you said, if they manage their team right and understand their personnel, the kid receiver, I'm gonna pick Jaden Reed too to really really pop.
Then you got the Texans. And again, I look at the Texans the same way that I kind of look at Carolina. CJ Stroud's going to be the starter. He should beat out Davis Mills, and he's going to do what he does. But I think the most impactful rookie is going to be who I think the best player in the draft was, and that's Will Anderson Jr.
It's funny because a lot of people have been saying stuff about the Texans. Oh, they're not going to win a lot of games. They're not going to do that. They have a coach who has an attitude. He plays with an attitude. He coaches with attitude.
And he's a
They
Texans legend
and he's a
as a
Texans
player.
legend. And they drafted a player who's going to play with an attitude. I believe that Will Anderson is going to make an impact where Joe was going to be like, how the hell they get him? Well, they traded a draft assets to get him. I think the Texans are going to be quiet and sneakingly good. I don't think it's going to take long for them to be back. I mean, I don't think that most people realize the Texans are the teams that make these crazy picks and signings that fit what they try to do. So, and they're really a good organization when you think about it. They've been in the playoffs. It's just been situations have happened that was beyond their control. So, I think Will Anderson is going to I think he's going to be defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, he has a very good chance to be that, man. Then when you think about next, you go with the Indianapolis Colts, and as we did the pre-draft show, I highlighted one of my favorite players in this draft. And so I'm going with Julius uh, Brents. They traded Stephon Gallimore to the Cowboys. So there is a need over there at that other corner. This kid's 6'3", 198 pounds. He can cover. A lot of people talk about his foot speed, but he's a high 4'5", 4'6" guy. But he covers, he hits. He's everything you want in a big corner. So I'm going with him to step in for Gallimore and have a big impact his rookie season.
And it's funny because I'm gonna go on the opposite end of the ball. I think Josh Downs is gonna be special for them. I think Josh Downs, with given what they got, being able to play off the running back, I think Josh Downs is gonna have a big year for them. So it's gonna be interesting because, like I said, we all know that Jacksonville should win that division, and we're not picking our divisions yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the division is not as bad as people be. Like even when you watched the Colts last year, the Colts had a terrible year, but they were in a lot of games, so the talent is there. The running game just went out of whack with Quentin and the other guard. It just got crazy for some reason. I don't think it's there as bad as they were. So I think Josh Downs is going to be a big impact for their team.
Yep. So next you got Jacksonville Jaguars. And we know how important the passing game in this league, and we know how the premium they put on quarterbacks and wide receivers now in this league, and they put on left and right tackles this league. But one of the most impactful positions in the NFL now in this NFL is edge rusher. And I really like the edge rusher from Louisville that they got a little bit later in this draft. Yashir Abdullah. Watch out for that name. Down there with the Jaguars with their aggressive defense. I think he's a name you're going to want to watch this year. So I'm going with Yashir Abdullah.
And I'm gonna go with if I could pick a whole draft team, and I didn't say that Jacksonville was one of my top fives, or they didn't make my honorable mention out of teams that I thought drafted well. But I gotta remember, Balky is the GM. He don't get along with his coaches. It's a weird thing, but the man drafts good football players. So I'm gonna go with the lineman. First pick Antoine Harrison. Protecting the asset, protecting Sunshine, protecting Trevor. I think this is a team that I don't know if Jacksonville will ever win the Super Bowl, but I think Jacksonville quietly for football people is a team that we all want to root for. I think that Doug Peterson has silenced anybody that thinks that he can't coach by going there and really getting revving the train up with Trevor Lawrence. And I think that they're exciting. He's so accurate. Trevor Lawrence, and I know some quarterbacks may have a bigger arm, but Trevor Lawrence in that pocket is he's a sight to watch. So
Yes.
I'm gonna go with the tackle and being able to protect him. I think is going to be key for what they're doing.
Then you got the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. And with them, man, it's all about Patrick Mahomes and getting weapons around them. And I think they've struck gold again with Rashee Rice. I like him. He's in the slot. You got Nicole Harmon and
Sky Moore.
You got Scott Moore. He kind of had an up and down rookie year.
Yeah, one touchdown this year in
the Super Bowl. So you got Scott Moore, but I like this kid. I think this kid is going to learn, and with no Harmon, no Juju, there's a need, and I think this kid will fill that need.
I second that. I just think that sometimes people don't realize this was the receiver. This receiver class was the class of receivers that no receiver should have been able to get to Kansas City. And I say that to say that these are all the perfect receivers for Andy Reid's system. So I think this kid is going to pop. These are all small receivers except Quentin. All these receivers were small and they're, twitchy guys. So I think he's just going to fit right into the system and just keep that train moving and what they got going. Las Vegas Raiders, Dwayne.
Yeah, Las Vegas. You lose a weapon like Darren Waller, you got to replace him. I think they've done that with Michael Meyer. I think he can block, he can receive. Is he the best at blocking? No. Is he the best pass catcher? No. But when you put the two combinations together, he's a very good tight end. And I think he's going to fit with what Josh McDaniels wants to do. And the Raiders, Casper, Todd Christensen, Waller, they're known for having tight ends, and I think he'll fit right back in there.
It's interesting that they let Waller go, and then they went and drafted a different tight end. I think Waller, the injuries the last 2 years is what did him in. But if you don't know anything about a player being married to the perfect coach, he's Gronk. He's Gronk 2.0. So this is going to be the 70 catch rookie. A lot of blocking at the point of attack, and has that nastiness. We might see him in a couple fights. He exemplifies everything that we think about the Raiders. May get a
He's
personal
big,
attack
man.
here and
Like,
there.
if they give him number 87, you're just going to be like, who is this big mountain of a man across the middle catching these passes, man? And that's who he is. He stands out, and I think he'll be very good for Josh McDaniels.
Seam buster. We just
Yeah,
gonna call him the seam
yeah,
buster.
for sure.
This next team, the Chargers. Um, I'll just say this offhand. Quentin Johnston has it all as a receiver. Head, heart, body, speed, but he don't got these.
You ever
He
see
don't
the
got
movie?
these.
You ever see the movie Unnecessary Roughness,
Hmm.
where the dude would get open all day long?
Yeah,
He couldn't catch the ball. They was trying to throw like
yeah.
over this toilet paper, like it's soft in your
Listen,
hair.
and I'm not trying to criticize the kid. He
Nah,
got drafted,
he's gonna have a
but
great career.
if you watched the Chargers over the last couple of years and you appreciate what Keenan Allen has done and what Williams has done, this kid physically and route running might be better than them, but his hands.
You just
If
don't
his
know.
if his hands come to the
Listen,
party.
what do we say as a Dallas Cowboy fans, right? We love Michael Gallup. He can't make the simple catches. He make the difficult two people draped over him. But when he wide open,
Where a
you
slant
don't
where
know
he
if he's
could have
gonna catch it or
where
not.
he could have caught a slant and hit his head on the goalpost, he won't make that catch. But
Nope.
I think their big pick is going to be the edge from USC, Tula Patulo, the
I think
second
it's
pick.
gonna be really good, man.
It's a Charger pick. It's the Junior Seau. It's one of them guys, one of the people that's from the Samoans and being out in San Diego, being out in the LA Sun and the Chargers. It's a typical Charger pick. So I think that that's going to be the one that's going to pop.
There's a kid that I'm rooting for that I'm picking as the impact. And, rumors are out there. It's rumors that I don't like personally. I don't think this should have been held against this kid. Um, but I'm really rooting for Dayon Henley to have a great career. And, unfortunately, they tried to bring in who his dad is, man. And allegedly, let me say that.
No, 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 no. You don't have to say allegedly.
You know,
His dad is who he is, and sometimes we need to understand that the choices that his father made was the choices that his father eventually had to pay for. His father's been home. His father's been integral in the Pop Warner, the football community out in LA. And I think that when you do talk about who his father is, when people do understand who Eugene Henley is, I could say that I think it's a typical NFL redemption story. I think that what he has done and how he has impacted his son's life to be able to be in the NFL right now is it's truly what stories are made of. I know that sometimes, and you alluded to it, they'll sell a draft as, oh, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is good. This is a life changing thing not only for the kid but also for the family. So, as we would say, salute the big Eugene Henley, for his son made it to the NFL, man, and it's a big thing for them. And like I said, with him, he's doing for the community out there in LA with guys that come to LA and rappers and all this stuff. He always says to him, "Yo, man, donate some money for the uniforms because Dwayne as a ex commissioner, man, you never have enough funds for these youth
Never.
programs. You never have enough. So I really appreciate, and he has a pass. We all do. We all got a
Right.
sticker.
And I love that the kid's going home to LA. I
Yeah,
like that. And his father will be there. And I think it's a great story. I think it's a story that's going to be told, man. So, I think he's going to have an impact this year.
yeah.
When you go to the other team in Los Angeles Rams, when I think of the Rams, I think of their offense. Um, I like the big tight end out of Clemson, Davis Allen. When you think about that Rams offense, you got Higsby and you got some of those guys. Um, I think he's going to do a good job here. Now, let me just say this, folks. So the number 8 horse run, his name was Madge, I think is how you say it. But on a personal note, the 3-2 Phils came in second. I had them. The 14 Angel of Empire came in third. I had them. The 4 Disarm came. No, the 11 Disarm came in fourth. I had some money on them. So I was in the hunt. But I only came to show with a show horse, the 14. So I won a whopping, I won't even tell you what I won. It ain't even worth discussing. But I was in the mix, man. I just didn't have the 8. I was all around the board though. With the
How is that
15,
feeling? Let me let me
4, the
ask you. Let me
11.
ask you, Dwayne. How is that feeling? Because I know you've done it before. How is that feeling when you pick a dark horse, as they say, and he places?
You still like a friend of mine, her mother. I placed a bet for her mother today, and her mother was like, "My brother, God rest his soul, his name is Phil." So she goes, "I want to go with the horse 2 Phils." So I played it for her, and I played it across the board, which is win, play, show. So if it won, she got all the prices on the board. If it finished in second, she got the second and the third price. If it finished in third, she got the third price. So she finished second. It looked like he was going to win. And because she was so strong in this and I placed a bet for her, I placed a win bet on it. And so when we got to the top of the stretch and he was there, I tried to keep it together because y'all had me on camera. But he finished second, so I'm happy for her. She walked away with some nice little change. And I got a third, man, with Angel of Empire. One of my horses hit the board. I didn't play her horse across the board. I could have, probably could have, but I didn't. I did that for her. I didn't do it for myself. I did them just to win. And I love this game, man. When you get in the Kentucky Derby, you got 18 horses. Sometimes handicapping goes out the window because in a normal race, you ain't going to have 18 horses. This is a Kentucky Derby. You ain't going to have 18 horses in the next leg of the Triple Crown, which is the Preakness. You got 18 horses, man. That's a lot of bumping, a lot of trying to get in position. It's a lot of horses, man. That's why that's why I always say, man, to me, the Kentucky Derby is it's hard to predict because the number of horses. Your horse can get bumped. Your horse can get shuffled back. I don't want to get too technical.
It gets nasty. And then I think one time or another we need to do a show on horse racing and show some footage so people could really understand the intricacies of what goes on within the horses.
It's one of my passions in this life. My daddy taught me how to read the books. He taught me how to bet. I went and I placed a bet one time, and this old timer came up to me. He was like, "Look," I heard you place a bet, man, and a young man like you shouldn't be placing no bet like that." He was like, "What you know about placing that type of bet?" He was like, "Usually people will do a trifecta bet and they bet in all 3 horses and they boxing it, they spending all this money." He was like, "Man, you just went up there and did a $2 trifecta bet." He's like, "Where did you learn it?" I said, "Listen, it's a dollar trifecta key. I'm putting the horse that I think is going to win at the top of it. And then I'm putting two horses with them in a box situation. But it's only a $2 bet. Now, listen, I used to, full disclosure.
How much would you have won on that bet, Dwayne?
I mean, it depends on what the odds was or whatever. But this brother right here knows what I've been through in my life and a lot of life journeys. The ponies was a big weakness of mine, y'all. Like, really was. You know, I've been doing this since I was 5. My dad would place bets for me. What you like, son? Boom. He placed the bets for me. So, man, listen, I went to Monmouth Park. I went to the gate once. I beat all the other kids to the gate. A horse threw his shoe the race before, and one of the men that was cleaning up the track for the next race said, hey, kid. I said, me? He was like, yeah, he threw me a horseshoe. It's over. It was over. Ever since then, the track is my spot. He threw me that horseshoe. I still got that horseshoe. Believe it or not, from when I was like 7, 8 years old. So you talking 8 years old, that's 1982. And once I got that horseshoe, man, this is my jam, man.
I think that most people don't even realize, Dwayne, when we was coming up, man, and we grew up in a town, but we grew up in a place that had a horse stable. So it was nothing as kids going down there with fruit and getting.
God rest his soul. We had one of the best horsemen ever, and Mr. Les Dixon Sr. ever. One of the best horsemen ever. I learned a lot from that man, just sitting and talking to him at Jay's barbershop and then at Bobby's Cut Above. And that man, them stables, you ain't got nothing on Mr. Les Dixon Sr. May he rest in peace.
Miami Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins. Because Mike McDaniel is no S, is who he is. I like the running back from Texas A&M, Devon Achane. Think he's going to be a stud in that system, and I think he's going to do big things.
Miami, this is not about their draft. I mean, for our show, I'm going to pick the running back as well, but Miami, another aggressive ownership group, Stephen Ross, has put all his chips to the table for the next couple of years with having a quarterback that's on a rookie deal. They got a defense. They have another beginning Jalen Ramsey. So I think it's going to be the running backs. It's going to be interesting when we do our show of pick'ems. That AFC East, man. When we do that show, the AFC is going to be an interesting division for us to pick. Minnesota Vikings. I thought it was interesting that they drafted Thielen's replacement.
I got to go for a second.
They drafted Thielen's replacement. I thought it was interesting.
I'm back. The NFL messed up. I had to go because the NFL messed up. And I'm sorry to cut you off. NFL, look at me. Look at me. Look at my eyes. You remember that famous scene in Minister Society when the late, great Bill Duke said, oh, you know you didn't. Nah, right? Yeah, you know you didn't. How the hell do you let the best wide receiver in this draft, Jordan Addison, get paired up with Justin Jefferson? Are you crazy? This is what the league allowed to happen. We're not ready. I mean, I know Kirk Cousins is the quarterback. I get it. But you now have Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison at the wide receiver position. This guy is a Biletnikoff winner. He did it at Pitt. Then he transferred from Pitt and went to USC.
If I'll say this, I'm picking Addison too, Dwayne.
Why?
They just need some defense to show up on the bus.
Man, damn that. We talking about impact in this draft. We talk about impact in this draft. We ain't getting into all that other stuff. Stay on mission. This is impact of this
NFL
draft.
Rookie of the Year right here, folks.
Come on, man. Like, what are we doing? What are you? Did you gift wrap the offensive rookie of the year to this kid, man? Go ahead and double Justin Jefferson if you want to, man.
Well,
Messed up.
the next team, I will honestly say, you're gonna be scratching your head. He ain't a pass rusher, but New England Patriots folks, you're gonna be scratching your head and saying, how does Belichick always pull it off? Christian Gonzalez fell right to him. I think Christian Gonzalez is the next one. I think he's the sticky cornerback. He's the one that got all the physical traits, and he's landed with the coach. A coach who has coached great cornerbacks. See, a lot of people always say Belichick, oh, he's a great defensive coach. Yes, he is. But if you ever look at through his history, the one position that he's coached well is those corners. So I think Christian Gonzalez is going to really pop, Wayne, for New England. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people.
I like that. I'm a Christian Gonzalez fan. I like that. But in this Belichick system with his son now running his defense, linebacker, edge, linebacker, edge, Keon White out of Georgia Tech. Watch what I tell you. Keon White out of Georgia Tech.
And the word on the street, folks, is rumor mill has said Belichick traded down to screw the Jets over.
Of course he did. Everybody know that.
The New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints.
New Orleans Saints. I love number 33 of TCU. He was giving my Michigan Wolverines the business in the semifinal game before he got hurt. You don't know what the future is without Kamara. There's a lot going on there. Even if Kamara is there, I believe Kendra Miller can be the Mark Ingram to Kamara. So I think Kendra Miller is going to be a big impact.
I think Kendra Miller will be the biggest impact. I think that a lot of people don't realize. I think the Saints in general, they're going to look totally different. They've had a good defense the last couple of years, so now they're going to see a different offense. And I think Kendra Miller with Carr is going to lead the way. So I think Kendra Miller is going to be the bell cow running back that we used to see the Saints. I think the Kamara era is almost over. Well, on to the New York Football Giants, who I think had a hell of a draft, folks. I'm not a Giant fan. I'm a Cowboy fan. But I think the New York Giants had a hell of a draft. I didn't give them the honorable mention or the top 5. I just think that division alone had a very good draft. And I know some people say, well, Dallas and the Commanders, their drafts. I think the Giants really changed are beginning, and you're going to see the Dable offense shape. I think that one thing Dable did is that he coached them well last year. So now you're going to see, I think, John Michael Schmitz, he's going to have the biggest impact on the team.
Well, it's weird because, we got the Giants and then we got the Jets right behind them. And my 2 impact players for both teams play the same position. And they're the best players at their positions. And they fit major needs for both teams. So I as well have John Michael Schmitz, the center for the Giants. He's the one that you put in there. And he's your starting center for the Giants if you re-sign him to a second contract for the next 10 years if he stays healthy. He's just that type of, I hate that the Giants drafted him because I'm a Cowboy fan. But I think he's a very solid pick for the Giants. It's a need, and it's now something that the Giants don't have to worry about for years to come if he stays healthy.
And if you watch one of the things me and Dwayne do, if you watch us long enough, yeah, we love all football players. We love every position, but we're more like corners, corners and linemen.
When you think about when you build anything, right? You build anything. How do you do it?
From the center.
You do it from the inside out. Do it from the inside out. So it's nice having those Maseratis and them Ferraris and all those speed cars at wide receiver. But you need meat and potato guy. You need lunch pail guys in this NFL. It's still one in the trenches, man.
Titman and John Michael is it's
Yes,
funny because they're the same players.
same player,
Both of them can play center, and both of them
same
can play
player.
guard,
They
and they're
both come
table
out of
setters.
they both come out of Big Ten. Get you a Big Ten offensive lineman.
Yeah,
Can't go wrong. Get you a Big Ten offensive lineman. Get you a Big Ten tight end. You can't go wrong because they still play physical football like that in the Big Ten. So bad job teasing the Jets. But my impact player for the Jets is the big center out of Wisconsin, Joe Tipman. And
yeah.
I know they got Aaron Rodgers and you know they got hopefully Mekhi Becton comes back. I like Will McDonald, but I think the Jets reach for him. That's just me. I know they said they're gonna play him in a wide nine, and he fits what they're doing. I get all that, but I like Joe Tipman for the Jets.
And I second that. We ain't got to discuss it. The next team, before we went live, I was informed of some criticisms that I may have said about Philadelphia, or some praise that I may have said about Philadelphia. I'm gonna hold what I feel about Philadelphia for another show because this isn't the show for it. I just think that when you look at the draft, Howie has gotten criticized or praised for so much of the draft. And a lot of us, we look at college players and we see them may play on New Year's Day or the week after, and you'll say, oh, Howie had a great draft. He drafted all these guys from Georgia. And I'm one of them people that would never criticize Georgia because our friend and brother, he's a Georgia fan. And so we get to see them a little bit. And because they've been so good the last couple years, you've seen them on a national stage. So a person will look at the Eagles and be like, oh, they knocked it out the park because they got a lot of name players. The impact player on their draft board that they drafted, honestly, is going to be Sidney Brown. He's going to either make or break their whole team because what they do is they rely a lot on their safeties. I don't know if Sidney Brown, I'm going to pick him. I don't know if he's going to have a big impact, but I think the rest of the guys, I don't know. I don't know. I Jalen Carter, and I'm not criticizing him.
Who?
Jalen Carter.
Jalen Carter.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing him, Wayne. But is he better than Fletcher Cox? No.
I
He
mean,
and Fletcher's
if,
long in the
if,
tooth.
if you talk
But
to some people, they say he's the best player in the draft. Um, like I said, I'm putting aside the off-field thing. I still didn't think he was the best player in this draft. I think he was the second best player, though. I'm not going to sit here and not say that. I thought the best player was Will Anderson Jr. I probably said that 5 times on this show alone. He has the potential to be good, but again, I get all the Georgia players. I get it. They traded for Swift. He's from Georgia. I get it. But these Georgia players that they were talking about from last year, Jordan Davis, okay, and Nakobe Dean, what did they do as rookies? What did they do? When they had to go get Ndamukong Suh and Leval Joseph for their playoff push.
and their best and honestly, I said
I'm
Brown
not
Dwayne.
hating. I'm not hating. I'm just
I
asking
said
the
Brown
question.
Dwayne, but honestly, what they're gonna do with Nolan Smith, what most people don't know is they're gonna try
And
to
I
make him
think he's
Hassan
my
Riddick.
impact. I
They're
think
gonna
Nolan Smith's my impact.
they want to make Nolan Smith Hassan Riddick. And the biggest impact on the Eagles defense this year, who should be, they signed him. He isn't a draft pick. Getting Terrell Edmonds was huge for their defense. Huge. So I'm gonna, not predict because we don't predict on our show. We do who we think we're gonna pick when it's time to pick. We gotta let the off season go. It's still going on. We usually have our pick shows during training camp, which we're gonna have some real fun this year with training camp in the NFL. But like with the Eagles, I think we need to not lower temptation, but don't get caught up with the names because the tackle they drafted is there for
And
one reason. He's Lane Johnson's successor.
let me say
So
this, right? Eagles had a great year. And when you have a great year, okay, people start picking at your organization. Not only players, but coaches. The Eagles lost their offense and defensive coordinators. Now, I think Sirianni has done a great job, right? But are these coordinators going to step up and be as effective as the coordinators that they have last year? There's more film on Jalen Hurts. I love Jalen Hurts. Loved him in college at both places. I thought Alabama did him wrong. I thought he did well at Oklahoma. We're going to see. And again, we ain't going to go too deep in the weeds because we still got teams we got to wrap up. But, Q went with Sidney Brown. I went with Nolan Smith. They're the king. The Eagles are the king of the NFC until somebody knocks them off. It's just what it is.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Um,
I'm paying Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah, I went Joey Porter Jr. I thought he should have been a first-round draft pick. I was surprised that he fell where he fell. But if you saw that, hey, rookie, welcome to the NFL clip, and you saw how upset that young man was, but his father was right there. Did you see that clip, Q?
Mm-hmm.
He going to have his son ready, man. And this is a Mike Tomlin special.
It's funny because I think, if I'm correct, Joey Porter came when Joey Porter was leaving when Mike Tomlin got there.
Yeah.
And I think that if it would have been more Joey Porters around Mike Tomlin, I think Mike Tomlin would have won some more Super Bowls. He got a dog at cornerback now. He's coming. And the way that the Steelers play defense, they funnel you to go to their corners one-on-one. This is a perfect matchup of player and fit.
Yes.
It's going to be feast or famine. And most times, all he got to do is guess once. So I think that Joey Porter Jr. It's going to be hard for him to win Rookie of the Year because I think so highly of what Will Anderson's going to do. But he's going to be right there in Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I think he's going to be good. And that leads us to the San Francisco 49ers, who had a very interesting draft. And people may think I'm crazy for what I'm about to say. But I think the impact player for the San Francisco 49ers is the field goal kicker, Jake Moody, because the 49ers have given up one of the most clutch field goal kickers in the postseason. The man just doesn't miss. He does not miss. And they know how important this is to their team because they picked the kicker in the third round. So I think he's the most impactful player for the 49ers, the most impactful rookie.
One of the things that most people don't realize is that even if you get like you said in the beginning, in the opening, get players that fit your system. 49ers, they haven't won a Super Bowl in forever, but the last 5-6 years, they're the one team that I will say they play complementary football from offense, defense, special teams. He's going to lead the league in scoring because he's going to make all his kicks. He's going to make all his extra points. And you're not even going to notice it with gold, except one thing is that special teams, the time of possession, you're going to see little things that's going to be that the 49ers for opportunities are going to score because what's going to happen, it's going to be a lot more touchbacks for that defense. So I think I agree with you on Moody. I think that when you first put me on Moody during the season, I was like, man, this kicker ain't that good. But he's not. He's going to be the best player. For that team, he's the perfect player for that team.
Seattle Seahawks, who I think crushed the draft. I think they literally crushed the draft. When you look at what they did, they crushed the draft. I don't believe in doing draft grades, but if I did, they would get an A+++. This is 2 years in a row that they crushed the draft. They got 3 starters off their draft last year. Both their offensive tackles and the damn defensive rookie of the year, damn near defensive MVP in that corner. So, but I'm going JSN. It hurts me again to go with somebody from Ohio, but I'm going Jackson Smith and Jegba. When you put him with Metcalf and Lockett, and now you giving Geno, Jackson Smith, and Jegba, yeah, enough said. I don't got no more.
You told me about JSN probably about 4 months ago. So I've been watching them kid out of Texas, and though I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan like you, though 3 years ago me and you picked an AFC team to be a dark horse in Miami Dolphins before they even got the players they got, we thought the Dolphins was going to be good. This is the one NFC team that I can honestly say in the next 2 or 3 years, I am going to be scared to death of this team. I think John Snyder has given people a master class on drafting and trading your franchise player and getting assets and then drafting 2 years in a row. I think JSN with those two receivers and me and you've talked about it, Lockett has always been really good. He's always making the big catches. And then DK Metcalf is DK Metcalf. JSN JSN may have, and I know people may think this is crazy what I'm about to say. He may have a Randy Moss rookie year. And I know that what I said, what you call to be the offensive rookie of the year, but JSN, his rookie year might be scary because it's no pressure on this kid, and they got it all. They might have gotten the best cornerback in the draft. Like you never know. Like
You never know. I mean, I like Witherspoon. He's not my best corner, you know.
Gonzalez is right. Yeah,
Little smaller in this NFL, but he's nasty. He hits. He does all that. I mean, it's a great pick. It's who they wanted. You
yeah.
know, they picked the corner that they wanted. You know, for whatever reason, the young man that made it to the Patriots, Gonzalez, he fell. You know, but I think Seattle did a very good job. And you know, we got three more teams to go. Um, we going with Tampa Bay Bucks, and again, you know my philosophy: building from the inside out. And I think the most impactful person for them is going to be Cody Mott, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State.
Very, very, very interesting team. I think that Todd Light has his job filled out. We're trying to rebuild the team back up. I think it's going to be Kalijah Cansey next to Vita Veda. I think it's going to be cute looking. You ain't going to be able to run on him, but it's going to be cute. So I'm going to go with Cody Mock too because he's going to be having to guard that quarterback. And I think that in the years to come, and we, like you said, we'll look at this year's draft and be like, well, they ain't doing nothing special on offense. This tackle is a 10-year guy.
Mm-hmm.
10-year guy, leave him alone. 6, 7 Pro Bowls, just leave him alone and let him do what he do.
The Tennessee Titans is next to last. And, you know, if you know the way that Vrabel plays football, and, you know, you got Tannehill at quarterback, and you got Will Levis waiting in the wings. Um, but I'm going with the running back out of Tulane, Tajuan Spears. Don't know what's going to happen with Derrick Henry, honestly. And this is a run first team. So, you know, they're going to be doing a lot of different running backs in there. And I think Spears has a chance to be a pretty solid running back.
Well, I'll say off the bat, Coach kind of won me over with how he coached up Will Levis right after he drafted him. I thought that was what you're supposed to do as a coach because you realize that the kid may be your future. I thought that was awesome. I think with knowing what Tennessee does and what they're trying to do, I think the tackle out of Northwestern is going to be big because they lost a lot. No more Taylor Lewan, folks. Guy out of Michigan that just was solid, always did his job. So we could see either Derrick Henry continue doing what he's doing, or then them saying, "Oh, he fell off." And it might not be just because of him; it might just be because of the line. So I'm gonna say that I'm gonna go with Skoronsky and Skoronsky and say that I think it's gonna be him. Washington Commanders, Dwayne. Emmanuel Forbes for me.
Yeah, I had to go with Emmanuel Forbes. And the reason I went Emmanuel Forbes is I don't know that what the hell the Washington Commanders is doing.
What I'm gonna say this about Emmanuel Forbes, Dwayne,
I don't know what they're doing.
and I'm gonna say this, and I know that a lot of people may criticize what I'm about to say about Washington Commanders. Emmanuel Forbes, folks, is a physical corner.
I don't know
I
that he's
don't know if he can
physical.
handle it with
But I
durability,
don't
though,
know that
folks.
he's physical.
No,
I think he's more of a guy
durability.
that's going to pick the ball off and he's going to return it for touchdown. But he's 165
Dwayne,
pounds soaking wet.
that's what I mean. Durability.
Man, I don't think he's physical at all, bro. I think he's
He
just a ball hawk.
he may be the type of corner, folks, where you're like, oh, he scored 4 touchdowns, he had 5 picks, but he only played 12 games because physically he's not going to hold up in the NFL. And if he does, it'll probably be him having to go to free safety after his first contract. I think he's an interesting guy because he's so ball hawk as far as his ball hawk skills. And you would think like, yo, he's, like I said, I said physical, but I meant his durability is going to be a very, very questionable thing going forward.
I don't know. He's real thin, man.
Yeah,
like,
and it's crazy because most of the guys that was small this year, and I said was light in the behind, was most of the receivers. This is the one corner that, like, legitimately, Dwayne said it. He might be 200 pounds if you put him in a wetsuit and 3 sweaters on and he's soaking wet. Like, he's I don't even know how he's going to look in an NFL uniform. Anybody knows Dwayne knows that he loves the Washington Commanders uniforms because they remind us of the hometown. The colors are the same. He might look crazy, yo. Like he might look like Devontae Smith from the Eagles in the uniform. And Devontae's a small guy.
He gonna pick off passes, and he gonna take a lot of passes to the house. And listen, who am I to be complaining about how a corner tackles when I root for the Cowboys and I watch Trayvon Diggs try to tackle? So I get it. But he's real thin, man. He's real thin, man.
Yeah.
I got a starting corner at Union High School that weighed more than 166 pounds.
Yeah. So with that, folks, this concludes our
impact tonight at 8:30.
Our impact players on the draft.
You ain't answer my question.
The basketball game?
Yeah, 8:30. Who you got, the Warriors or the Lakers tonight?
I think the real Anthony Davis is going to show up. I mean, it's almost crazy when me and you are big NBA fans. We used to be, and they just turned us off. So we watch when we want to watch. We don't follow the league like we used to, and it's amazing because this used to be the root of our conversations more than anything. The NBA, but I don't think we've ever seen a player that has so much impact on a team, whether he's healthy, playing well, or in his street clothes, more than Anthony Davis. It's amazing that this guy has some of the most amazing talent in the world, but he remains to be seen. In the NBA named him one of their top 75 players of all time.
They did. But it's I like what I'm starting to see. If you watch the NFL Network or if you're on NFL.com, you see if you're a Giant fan, they were out at the Meadowlands today.
Yo, you just threw for a loop for me, and I have to cut you off because you said NFL Network, and I had a question that I meant to ask you 2 days ago, and I didn't get a chance to ask you because you called me on Thursday laughing about how Rusick from Chicago PD got his butt whooped. And it's still hilarious. But I meant to tell you, yo, you told me something 2 weeks ago, Dwayne, and you said you was about to do it, and you said you fell back, and you said you're going to do it. We have to talk about it. The NFL package on YouTube. Mm-hmm. They're taking $100 off trying to get people to buy it before June 6th. I'm not going to say I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to say I am going to buy it because they're not paying me to endorse them stuff.
Right.
I'm going to say that I looked at the fine print and I was not happy.
I didn't look at the fine print.
The fine print says you're going to be charged 70 something dollars a month
Oh well, I ain't doing it then.
for YouTube TV. So it's not just a one-time fee; it's a recurring fee of $70 a month.
Well, then I'm out. They don't gotta worry about me signing up.
Come on, YouTube. You guys are killing us with this package. I mean, if you're gonna give somebody the NFL package, what you should say is maybe with YouTube TV, maybe give them $10 a month, but $70 a month recurring. It's not that much programming. I'm not trying to
No,
be funny. YouTube is a good partnership and it helps a lot of
yeah,
people,
I won't
but they
do it.
don't have enough programming that's gonna make up for that $70 a
And
month.
I'm a Cowboy fan. The majority of our games is always on TV anyway. So maybe 3 or 4 games ain't on TV for me as a Cowboy fan. And I'll go to Hooters. I'll go to Buffalo Wild Wings. They don't sponsor us. Neither one of them. Probably shouldn't even be using their names. But I will go outside to see a game before I
So
pay
let's so let's say
four
let's
hundred and $74 and then $77 a month. Nah,
so let's say you get the package, and right now they're giving you the package for $100 off. So you're paying $300 with taxes for the football package. Then you got to pay a recurring $70, $75 a month. Now we're talking about 6 months.
I ain't doing it.
It's not, folks. I mean, I get it. I get it. That's tough. That's tough on them. That's tough on people. That's tough on NFL fans right now. I think that they need to reconsider charging people. s- Charge people $10 for this YouTube TV subscription.
Did
People
you
got $10.
did you see Draymond Green's press conference at the end of the last
I
game?
thought it was interesting. His son put him on blast.
Well, I'm just saying, like with his son and his daughter being in
Mhm.
there, and him speaking of the Warriors and how they're open to having kids around, and speaking of the NBA and how they allow the kids to be in the press conferences. And they've been doing that since Allen Iverson. Again, I'm an AI fan, but trying to think, I think he the first I can remember bringing a kid in there when he brought his son Deuce in there, and then it's going on more and more, and you don't see that in other sports, but you do see it in the NBA. So when I was listening to Draymond and he was talking about it, and he was saying I could look back on this press conference when they're older and see that they was with me, and I thought that was real, real deep, man. That's why I just wanted to bring it up, see what you
Well,
felt about it.
how I feel about it because Dwayne, believe it or not, I remember Dale Curry having Steph with him, and it is aspirational. I do think that one of the when me and you always discuss this. I think that sports leagues in America get a bad rap. And what I mean is all the work that these sports leagues do in their communities, nobody talks about it. All the philanthropist work, all the giving back. I mean, me and you discussed it about one of the football teams, what they did for what they did for you, and it wasn't even the local team that did a lot. It was a team that's literally on the other side of the
Other
country.
side of the country.
And I think that I always say this when they try to praise an athlete and say, "Oh, this athlete gives back." In my lifetime, I have had privilege as well as yourself to be around some professional athletes. There is not a professional athlete that I know that don't give back. So
True.
I think that people need to, because they don't have to do it. They don't have to do it. These organizations don't have to do it, and I think that we criticize them sometimes a little too much with some of the great work that they do for their respective communities. Definitely when it comes, I know basketball and football. I mean, you can get your whole if you know the right people. Sometimes you can get your football field, and a lot of athletes they come back home after they secure the bag and buy housing, get into real estate, donate a lot of their money to these programs. So I think that's awesome what Draymond did, and Draymond's right. I mean, Draymond Draymond would be guy in the Hall of Fame where most people look at his numbers and most people look at what he's worth and be like, oh, this guy, he stole. He wasn't that good. But those of us that seen it would be like, oh, Draymond was good. And I think the Warriors need to extend him. I need to bring that up. I think Draymond's an ambassador for the game. As much as he does, what does he do? He
But
does stuff within the confines of the game. Draymond don't get in trouble outside of
I
the
don't
game.
like him.
Yeah,
He's a
Can
Spartan.
yeah,
He's
he's
a
a Spartan.
Spartan. I'm a Wolverine.
Yeah,
I don't like
yeah.
him. But I
So
just
with
thought
that,
that was special. And man, thank you
folks,
for this pop up show, man. I appreciate it. And
yeah, we did a pop up show because we had some time, man, and we're gonna enjoy the rest of the night. And those of us that watch us on other shows, we have our show tomorrow at 8:30, which is gonna be interesting and good week. And we're gonna start doing stuff. We know that NFL rookie mini camps is gonna be coming right around the corner, so just make sure you like, share, subscribe, definitely on YouTube,
no,
and
and
hit the bell so you get the notification.
check out those channels and websites that you like. Like I know for you Giant fans, your rookies was on the field, man, yesterday and today, and you saw pictures of it. It's
And I
exciting
and I do
time.
I do got
Eagle
one
fans
shameless
too.
plug.
I was
I do,
surprised with the Eagles though, right? That
yeah.
big Nolan Smith was wearing number 3. I was very interested to see him in that single digit.
I do got one shameless plug. They're not paying me. They're not sponsoring our show. I did run across a very very good site, Instagram site, website. I don't know if they're doing it in a podcast, and I don't know if they have a YouTube channel, but I really really want to recommend if you're a real football grunt that you don't want your team, you don't want to follow your team, and you just want to follow the league. I really like the 33rd player. I don't agree with everything they say, but the 33rd player is ran by a bunch of ex GMs, ex personnel guys, ex players
Is it
contributing.
the 33rd player or the 33rd team?
33rd team, 33rd team. I said 33rd play, 33rd team.
Okay.
Really, really good. I know that they said that Mr. T, me and Dwayne call my Mr. T Tannenbaum. We call him Mr. T from Mike Francesa days. So check it out. I mean, I'm endorsing it. I mean, I'm not saying that I know anything, but I really like following them. They really give you a different aspect of how you look at your team on
We
the
gotta
field.
we gotta be able to give people their flowers, man, and that's why this time of year, and I pay the $7.99 for the athletic. I pay it, so I'm gonna talk about
Oh
it
yeah,
because I pay it, and
mention
I
that.
only pay it for one man, Dan Bugler, and once again he knocked it out the box. And if you want some good NFL coverage, man, tap into Dan Bugler, man, for sure.
With that, you guys, thanks for joining us. Remember, like, share, subscribe. The best way to support what we're doing is to support what we're doing. Take care. Have a blessed week.